The following program has been made possible by a grant from Chase NBW through their Neighborhood Grants program. This is one of several programs produced at LMC-TV celebrating the 325th anniversary of the town of Mamaroneck.
Here we are at Harbor Island Park in the village of Mamaroneck, New York, and we're on the Stephen E. Johnston Beach. And with me is Mr. Stephen E. Johnston, Mr. Harbor Island. Now, Steve, tell me, what are your first memories of Harbor Island?
Well, my first memories of Harbor Island when I was old enough to be brought down here by my parents. Those were the first memories.
First memories. You were born here in Mamaroneck?
I was born here in Mamaroneck, right. And at the age of 13, I come down here when they had the recreation programs. And Coach Tonight of Mamaroneck High School was the supervisor at that time. And, of course, Mr. Tonight at that time had mentioned to me that the fellow that was a lifeguard here, and he was from White Plains, that he would be leaving, and if I was interested in being a lifeguard, and if I would make a decision in either way, yes or no. So I decided yes.
Oh, and are you happy you decided yes?
I am very, very happy.
How long did you end up being in charge of Harbor Island?
Well, I was in charge of Harbor Island for 50 years.
50
no,
years.
Wait, no, I wouldn't say that. I was a lifeguard from 1923, and then I became a head lifeguard, and then eventually I became the superintendent of parks, which was in the late 30s.
So that was the entire park?
That was the entire park, right.
Uh-huh. But, you know, this is called Harbor Island, but it is really a peninsula.
That's right.
Now, how did it get to be a peninsula? And I know you have slides you're going to show us, but how did you get interested in just getting the slides ready to show the history?
Well, I tell you how I got interested. A lot of people came from different areas of the community. And not only that...
different places other than Mamaroneck.
Different places other than Mamaroneck. And they said, what did they ever do around this place? And that was people that lived here and moved away and come back. You know, and they said, look, what did they ever do around this place here? I said, well, someday I'm going to show you. So I made a decision in getting slides and prove to the people what this place looked like in the late 1800s.
And that's exactly what you are going to do now.
Right.
You are going to show us the history of Harbor Island from a little small 4.5-acre island called Quahog Island, Hog Island, to the, how many acres is it now?
44.5 acres.
44.5 acres of this gorgeous park and the Stephen E. Johnston Beach. Before we go to Steve's magnificent slides, let us look at a picture of Mamaroneck Harbor so that we can see the various areas Steve will be discussing. The picture was taken from the Orienta Apartments about 10 years ago. This is the entrance from Long Island Sound into Mamaroneck Harbor. This is Orienta. Here on the right is Shore Acres. The East Basin is here with the entrance to Guyan Creek, with the entrance to Mamaroneck River. Here is the West Basin. The Boston Post Road runs from Rye to Larchmont. This is the beach. This is the beach with the bulkhead on the East Basin side that was built by the WPA. This is the bulkhead on the left side that was built to hold the long outfall pipe from the sewage disposal plant in 1930. The tennis courts, the ball fields. The original Hog Island, the 4.5 acres, was located approximately in this area with the oak trees here in the playground.
Looking out of the Sound or coming in from the Sound, you'll see on the left-hand side Shore Acres. On the right-hand side, you will see Orienta. Coming into the 4.5 acres of Quahog Island, which was given by the state of New York to Caleb Haynes in 1820. In 1861, Robert Craig had bought it and built the causeway down to the island. Now you see the 4.5 acres, that's Quahog Island. Quahog meaning shellfish. On the left you will see the Haskell Hotel, and on the right you will see of the hotel. You will see where they kept the carriages, the building there. On the right further over you will see the oak trees. Then you will see where the 30 acres of land was underwater. Then you will see the causeway coming up, and in the middle of the causeway you'll see that little opening there where the boats at low tide had to go in the night, or not, I would say completely low tide, but at quarter tide could go in and out underneath the causeway. This is Boston Post Road again, looking down to the causeway, also looking down to the 4.5 acres of land, again, which was called Hog Island. And the houses you will see along there now were sold to the county, Westchester County, and built a sewage plant over there on the left of the buildings that you see. On the right-hand side, you will see all the marshes. Looking down from the Boston Post Road, that is Madison Square. Madison Square, looking again, as I mentioned again, looking down to Harbor Island, you'll see the 4.5 acres. You will see the causeway, you will see the acreage on the right-hand side, the oak trees. The oak trees are still there. And you see all those wagons there and the horses. They brought all their wares in from the different farms in the community and from Westchester County. And they went down to the city on the different boats with the Signet, the Irene Davis, and also the Mary E. Gordon, which carried all the wares into New York. Also, they carried passengers. Now again, you will see the causeway looking over the Madison Square, and you will also see the East Basin looking over to Shore Acres. Also, you'll see the causeway again going down to the 4.5 acres of Hog Island. And also the Purdy building on the left there, right on the corner with the Epstein 3 9 cent store. Again, you're looking down at the causeway, the 6.5. You're looking at the west side and you're looking at the East Basin. You're from Hog Island. And you will also see St. Thomas's building, and also the Nichols Boatyard on the left-hand side. And the bridge, also you'll see the bridge there, the opening, as I said before, where at the quarter tide, where the boats went in and out of. And went right up to the Mamaroneck Avenue, right up to the, and on the right there, on the right, again, is the Purdy building. This is the West Basin from the Post Road. You'll see all the marshes, and you'll see the first storage building that was built down on the 4.5 acres of Harbor Island. Again, you will see the marshes. Looking at Ross Road, you see Orienta, and you see that building, white building down there is off of Rushmore Avenue. Looking off, down from St. Thomas's Tower, where the picture was taken, you will see the Boston Post Road. You will see the houses on the Boston Road, which was eventually taken down for the sewage plant. And you will also see the marshes there again in the West Basin. Now, looking down West Boston Post Road, you'll see the trolley cars going down west, and you'll see the automobiles coming up east. You will see the building on the left there is the Britt building, and that is where eventually, and those are the houses, that's eventually where the sewage plant is, and those are the houses that were taken down there going down to Larchmont. Along the Boston Post Road, and these are all of the houses, and you will see the reason why it was called an island because of the fact of the water all around it. And you'll see there where the garbage dump was, where they filled it all in on both sides. This is the West Basin again. This is a squatter that lived there until 1938, when all the squatters who were at the island at that time had to go. This is from the Boston Post Road, looking at the West Basin again. And also, that's high tide. Came up all the way up to the Boston Post Road. It's the same picture when you see the marshes. And you will see low tide here, and then you also saw it when it was high tide. This is the East Basin. Again, you're looking at Shore Acres. You also are looking at the sand and gravel owned by Ottman and also owned by George Wolfe. And you'll see the wall that was built by WPA. Also part of the 4.5 acres. This is looking out at the East Basin again and looking up Guyon Creek. You'll see the tide is about 3/4 high. The tide is coming in now, and the boats are coming off the marshes. It is the same picture at low tide. Again, you'll see Harbor Island, and now you'll see the boats all on the marshes there. And again, we talk about Harbor Island over on the right-hand side. This is Guyon Creek at low tide. On the right-hand side is Shore Acres. This is looking up at Guyon again with the high tide. This is the dock that was built in the 1800s. And you will see that the Signet boat that came in there, which came in from the west end of the beach. It was the only channel in the harbor at that time. And this is the Signet boat, which eventually was rehabilitated in 1910. The dock is at the circle of Harbor Island, down at Harbor Island. Even though the village of Mamaroneck became a village in 1895, even though they had the presidents and trustees, they did not function until the 1900s. In 1899, there was a petition signed by 60 people to dissolve the village. And there was a referendum and a vote was taken, and the noes won. Then, a group of people got together and signed a petition, 29 people signed a petition, to take 30 acres under condemnation proceedings for $50,000. In 1905. And they went before the board and spoke to the board about it, and it laid over from 1905 until about 1907, or actually 1907. And a Bill Cooter, who was a trustee of the village of Mamaroneck at that time, voted, made a motion to the trustees to buy the village, the upland property, and also the property that was taken on the condemnation proceedings. And the total of the buying of the acreage was $69,125. There were 30 acres, there were 30 acres underwater, plus the acreage that plus the 16.5 acres, plus the acres that was underwater, 30 acres. It was a total, plus the land around it, was a total of 44.5 acres. So what happened at that time? The village got together around in 1909, 1910, or actually just made the decision in 1910 to go out to Washington, to go to Washington and see if there's a possibility of getting the harbor dredged. 2 years after, which is 1912, Dr. Hunter became president. And at that time, they had the East Basin dredged. And the channel was put through. At that time, the channel came through, or the channel was dredged out, and all the boats came in. All it was that the lumber boats, the coal boats, the sand boats, and everything came in because of the fact up in one part of the channel that they had to blast the rock out. And that is where the pavilion is at Harbor Island, which goes across to Shore Acres. This is the group that went to Washington to appeal for the dredging. And these are the men who were appointed by the board as a committee to see what they could do with the area, with the recreation area. And they were the ones who were successful in getting the work done that was done there. And also, they were successful in getting the East Basin dredged. On your left is John McGardle. In the center, on the right, is Dr. Hunter, who was a former mayor of the village. On your right is Jack Weddleton, and on there is John Goodwin. All in the community, we're all involved and are very civic-minded. You will now see the success of them going out to Washington. How all that was dredged all the way up to the wall. And all that rock that you say came out of New York City came up on barges. And it was all carted into this area and made a basin so that all the silt and all the mud could go in that particular area. Rocks came from the subways in New York City. Now, you see, because they dredged, you see all those boats who could come in. On the left is the Irene Davis alongside the dock. On the right is the Cygnets. Those are the boats that took the wares into New York City, and also passengers. You can see the passengers on the boat there. And right there where that man is standing, that's Tom Homan's, where he rented boats for 25 cents a day. He was a squatter there. And on the right-hand side is where Brewer's lumber yard. In fact, it was Moffat's in those days. That particular area was torn down, and it was a Moffat's coal yard. Now you see the Cygnet boat there, and these are all the folks from the Mamaroneck that went out on the Cygnet and on an excursion, and they went out to Long Island and New York City and different areas in Stanford, different areas in the Sound. And the gentleman in the middle there with the straw hat is a Tom Fairless. Now you see the barges, the fact of what was done as far as the channel was concerned. You see the coal boats, the stone boats, the sand boats, sand and gravel boats. And right there you see where Tom Homan's is again, where he rented out the boats at 25 cents a day. And on the right is the dock. Okay. All right, now you see the gentleman there is A.J. Malone. He's right there. It's the willow tree right on the corner of Madison Square. And he sold bait. He also, it was a great place for clams and oysters and anything you really needed as far as fish was concerned. Mamaroneck was the place for it. And also you see the Purdy building on the left-hand side. This is looking up from Harbor Island or Quahog Island. Now we talk about the dump. This is where the dump, when they put some of the silt from the East Basin, after that, then they start filling in the dump with all kinds of cars, everything that was possible that had to go into an area like that. And there's the storage plant up there on the top of, on the Boston Post Road. Before, they used it as a dump. I mean, at low tide you couldn't swim because of the marshes. As I said before, the acreage was nothing but marshes until the water come in, and then you had a high tide. And the only time that we had a little area down there, that the only time that you could go in swimming there was at high tide. This was before all the dump was there. Westchester County built the sewage plant on the Boston Post Road in 1931. Okay, now you see the marshes in back of the sewage plant, and you can see there on the causeway going down, you see the opening there. Again, we say about quarter tide, the boats could go in and out of there. You also see where the completion of the 16.5 acres, from the 4.5 acres to 16.5 acres, you will see they made a parking space and also a road around there. So that's the parking area there. Well, this is the beginning of the Harbor Island Beach, which is now the Stephen E. Johnston Beach. At that time, the Harbor Island Beach it was. And then they changed the name in my honor, Stephen E. Johnston Beach. Well, this was taken in January 1933. And it was a cold water and a cold day. So whether or not, they just felt they wanted to do something. Now you can see the completion of the WPA, the wall going all the way down to 700 feet of beach. And also you will see the bulkhead that was built. And the fact is that men that worked there were all really artists. Their work was beautiful. And also you see on the other side of Shore Acres. Again, I have to mention as far as the men themselves, a lot of them were marble cutters, and they were just terrific. You'll never get that work today that was done in those days with real artists. This is the west side of the Harbor Island. This is Dominic Pinto breaking up the rock to build to the seawall. Building on the left is the old Post Road restaurant, which became the American Legion eventually. And then on the top is the Soundview Gardens, and then below is the Carolyn Court apartments. Now this is again the completion of the wall on the west basin, and you can see the Fenimore Cooper Inn right directly in front of us, low tide. This is the same thing, looking up the Boston Post Road, and you can see the change as far as the area of where it has been filled in. All right, now you can see them constructing the building by WPA again in 1934. That's the pavilion, which is used as a bathhouse. The beams that are used in this building are from the old green dock, was out directly in front of where the beach is today, where the circle is. The beams are, in fact, a real artwork done on the inside, how they cut into them and made some design. They are really something to look at. This is the front of the pavilion on the beach side. This is the upper end of Guyon Creek up near the Boston Post Road. WPA work done here too as well. And you'll see as we go on the completion of the walls. That's where Lawrence's Inn made a parking area. And that's a house that was there right at the entrance to Lawrence's Inn and off of the Boston Post Road. Lawrence's Inn is now Continental Manor. Now this is the dredging now of the West Basin. 1938 or 39. It was passed in 38, but I believe, to the best of my knowledge, was in 1939 when they actually dredged it. After they got the go-ahead from Washington. Over on the right-hand side, you will see Orienta. And down on the left there, on the end almost, you'll see where the original sewage plant is. Was, rather. That's right at the West Basin. There's a temporary retaining wall to hold the silt in the particular areas. There again, you're looking down at the acreage of 16 and a half, which was completed. It's a similarity to the one you just saw. Now you're looking out and you see the 4.5 acres plus the acreage that was added onto it, plus where the West Basin dredged, was where they dredged the West Basin to fill in the rest of Harbor Island, the other acreage that was underwater all the time. And it has been all filled in, and they reclaimed it. They reclaimed it and filled it in not only with what came out of the West Basin, but what came out off the roads, and the dirt and rocks and everything went into the area. It's no longer an island. It is now a peninsula. This is the beach. This is where they dredged it to fill in the bulkhead there, because from the sewage plant, that's where all your pipe went out into Long Island Sound, out to 42 buoy. And this was also, as far as I am concerned, was an asset, the fact that this work was done. A lot of people don't feel that way, but I do. It's been an asset to the village to have the beautiful beach that we have today. When I first went there to work and as a lifeguard, I only had 150 feet of beach. Over the years that I was there, from that time, before I had gotten retired and also spent another 7 years there, we had 700 feet of beautiful sand, beautiful beach. Well, during the time after they had dredged the beach, dredged that particular area, and when I was a lifeguard, they went down about 12 or 14 feet. And the fact is that you could not go into the water until high tide. Anybody who went down there, to go down there to the water, to go into the water, they would drop off like dropping off a pool into 10 or 12 feet of water. And it was really had some problems over the years while I was there, until eventually what had happened, we filled it in. We brought barges in from Long Island with grit and sand and everything that was possible to put in there to fill the whole area in, to make it safe. This was done in 1930 when the sewage plant was open, or even before it was open. All this work had to be done even before the sewage plant was completed. This is again WPA. This is eventually, and as time went on, from 1923 up until the time I had left, this is the way the beach was built up, and the sand came all the way up to the top of the wall. Originally, I had to put steps so that people could walk down to go into the water at high tide. And the upper beach was made. And on that upper beach is a road comes all the way around where those green trees are. And the fact that we put sand right, there's about 6 or 8 inches of sand of where the road is. This is again the completion, and this is high tide, and see what I had to do there was build steps to get down and see, you see people could walk and down and go off the steps into the water, and some dove off the steps into the water. And that's the Dorothy sisters. They were from New Rochelle. They used to come down to the beach every day. Typical beach scene. And you can see there where all the men had to wear tops. They couldn't come down to the beach without a top on. Also, you couldn't come through the park. You had to be dressed coming through the park. If you didn't, you got a ticket. Before the beach was formally opened, we swam in the back of the town dock, which was up by where Lawrence's Inn. We also swam at Mabley's Dock. We also swam at Cordy's Beach. We also swam at Trinity School Beach, up off the Boston Post Road. We also swam up on Mamaroneck River and Devil's Hole. We also swam up in Rhinebeck in back of River Street. There were many places that we swam. Devil's Hole was in back of Mamaroneck River off Factory Road, which was where Pickle Factory was. And that's what they used to get their water, was that Devil's Hole. And we swam there too. That was in back of the theater, Mamaroneck Theater. Here I am as a lifeguard in 1923. That's Steve Johnson, Tommy Zay, Bobby O'Donnell, Red McGuire. Red, I call him.
Steve, your slides were magnificent. I so enjoyed them. And your historical knowledge was just wonderful. Certainly filled in all the little questions that I had about Harbor Island Park. I wish to congratulate you for your 57 years of this park. It just is beautiful.
Well, I tell you, Gloria, many, many times I wanted to give this job up as a lifeguard.
Really?
And also as a superintendent. That was the time that I got married and had a youngster. I felt that I had so much more on the ball, and I felt that I wanted to have a better future with my wife and my youngster. But it was that magnet that always brought me back here. It was God's will that I be here with these kids, because I feel that I had something on the ball in that respect to be able to give them character and help them in every way in their future life. And I have been happy with the people of Mamaroneck and the children of this area. They were so good to me and got so much prestige. I didn't have to buy a Cadillac, or I didn't have to go to Europe. I got so much prestige from this island and loved it so much that, again, I have to say it was God's will that I be here.
Well, the village of Mamaroneck has been very lucky to have you, Steve, and we thank you. We thank you for your 57 years. You have been a gem. You have helped make this park the jewel of Mamaroneck.
Thank you very much, from the bottom of my heart. Well, That's it. That's it.